Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. Our movie began at the hospital, exactly in the delivery room. The nurse noticed that one of the twin girls was extraordinary, but Harry, the father, didn't like it because he wanted a boy. He left the room with his wife and said, "We'll name her Matilda." Harry placed his daughter in the car and let her brother Michael play with her, even though it was known that he drove recklessly, causing people to avoid him. When they arrived home, they forgot Matilda in the car until they remembered her later. Days passed, and Matilda began to grow, showing signs of extraordinary intelligence, but no one paid attention to this. 4 years went by, and Matilda started taking care of her appearance, styling her hair on her own. One day, everyone left her alone at home. She went into the kitchen, prepared her breakfast, washed the dishes, and handled the stove with ease. She sat down to eat and read a magazine, even though she hadn't started school yet. That evening, while the family was watching TV, she approached her father and asked him to buy her a book. He replied, "You're too young to read," and told her to sit quietly and watch TV with them. It was then that Matilda realized the difference in thinking between her and her family. The next day, after they left, she went to the library. The librarian was surprised to see such a young girl alone, but she soon realized how intelligent and sharp Matilda was. She allowed her to borrow books to read. 2 years passed this way, and Matilda kept reading books. One day, she walked past a garden and saw children playing, but she didn't feel the urge to join them. Her happiness came from reading and expanding her mind. That evening, her father noticed her books and told her she was still too young to read. Matilda replied that she should be enrolled in school, as she was already 6.5 years old. He didn't believe her and asked her mother, who didn't even know her daughter's age, claiming she was only 4.5. This upset Matilda greatly, as her dream was to go to school. One day, Harry came home very happy, having made money from fixing up old cars and selling them. He asked Michael to calculate his earnings, but Matilda beat him to it and calculated it quickly. Harry didn't believe her and accused her of looking at the paper he held. He took her to her room angrily. The next morning, Matilda got up before everyone else and poured hair dye into the oil her family used. When her father applied it, his hair turned a strange color. Matilda felt victorious and laughed. Harry had to wear a hat and left the house with the family. When they got into the car, they noticed the parts in the car were faulty. 2 police officers were watching them. When they reached Harry's workplace, he demonstrated how he installed faulty parts in cars and sold them at high prices. Matilda didn't like this and told him it was against the law. Harry got angry and told her she was too young to object to what he did. Frustrated, Matilda played a trick on him, putting glue inside his hat. When he tried to remove it, it wouldn't come off, causing chaos at a restaurant where they went for lunch. Matilda sat eating happily while the rest of the family struggled. That evening, as usual, they were watching TV. Harry turned off the lights, but Matilda continued reading her book. This angered him, and he snatched the book from her, tearing it apart. He forced her to watch TV with them. At that moment, Matilda became furious, and her emotions were visible to everyone. The next day, Harry met with the principal of a school named Agatha to sell her a car. To convince her, he offered a discount in exchange for enrolling Matilda in the school. Agatha agreed. When Matilda found out, she was overjoyed and hugged her father. She began dreaming of her new school life. The next morning, she woke up full of energy. When they arrived at the school, she was surprised by its appearance, which looked like an old, abandoned building. She met Agatha, who was very intimidating. Matilda befriended 2 girls, Lavender and Hortense, who warned her about the principal's harshness. They told her Agatha was known for throwing students and being very strict. Matilda was shocked by what she saw. In class, she met her teacher, Miss Honey, who introduced her as the new student and encouraged the class to treat her well. Matilda felt comfortable with Miss Honey, who seemed kind. During a math lesson, Miss Honey gave a challenging problem as a joke, but Matilda solved it in seconds. Miss Honey was astonished and verified the answer, finding it correct. She asked Matilda how she knew, and Matilda explained her love for reading and studying. Miss Honey was thrilled and informed the principal about Matilda's genius, suggesting she be moved to a higher class. However, the principal dismissed the idea, believing Miss Honey just wanted to get rid of Matilda. Disheartened, Miss Honey left. Matilda returned home and saw the police near her house again, but she ignored them. She tried to tell her mother about her day, but her mother was uninterested, busy on the phone. That evening, Miss Honey visited their home to discuss Matilda's brilliance with her parents, but they didn't care. Matilda, however, was thrilled by Miss Honey's visit. Miss Honey left her a book to read before leaving. The next day at school, the principal called a student named Bruce to punish him for eating her cake. She brought out a massive cake and challenged him to finish it. Bruce struggled but managed to eat it all with the encouragement of his classmates, including Matilda. This infuriated the principal, who punished the class with 5 extra hours of detention. Matilda returned home to find the police still watching the house. So I walked and told her father, but he didn't react, and he told her, "You're just imagining things." The next day, he saw Matilda and her friends in a forest playing and hunting an animal called a newt. The principal arrived and started yelling at Matilda because she thought she was up to no good. Before entering the classroom, the kids began working on their art projects and decorations. The teacher undid the girls' braids, and the principal entered the classroom. Lavender hid the newt in the water container. When the teacher noticed that Matilda was absent, she asked Lavender, through gestures, about her. I told her that the principal had punished her, so she went to look for her. She eventually found her and brought her back to the classroom. Matilda asked Amanda to ignore a word, and Amanda began ignoring it in a playful tone, which upset the principal. She yelled at them and left to drink water, not noticing the newt. The kids started laughing. When she saw it, she was terrified and accused Matilda of being responsible. Matilda denied it, but the principal, feeling wronged, got angry and stared at the glass until she managed to knock it over. The newt flew out and landed on the principal, who was very frightened, and the kids laughed at her. At that moment, Matilda realized she had a superpower. The principal started threatening them to keep quiet and left. Matilda didn't confess to placing the newt in the water. She went to Miss Honey because she trusted her and told her she was the one who moved the glass earlier. She tried to prove it by moving it again, but she couldn't. Miss Honey took Matilda with her, and on their way, they passed by the principal's house. Matilda saw the gloomy house and was surprised because Agatha, the principal, didn't like children or their games. Miss Honey began telling Matilda her story. She said that her mother died when she was 5, and her father brought her aunt, Agatha, the principal, to take care of her. Agatha mistreated her and scared her. After some time, her father also passed away, and as she grew older, she moved out and rented a small cottage in the area to stay away from her aunt. Miss Honey told Matilda that one day, someone would come to recognize her worth, and she'd live happily. She invited Matilda to have juice and added that her aunt never let her take anything from their house, not even her toys or pictures with her father. Miss Honey expressed her desire to retrieve her belongings from the house. Matilda was excited about the idea, and they went to the house. They saw Agatha practicing spear throwing. After a while, she took her car and left. They entered the house and found a box where her father used to keep chocolates that her aunt never allowed her to eat. Out of fear, they didn't close the box properly and went upstairs to search. They heard Agatha returning and shouting about her car. She noticed the open box and realized someone was in the house. Miss Honey told Matilda to escape through the kitchen door. Matilda almost got caught but managed to escape at the last moment. They returned home, and Matilda saw her mother talking to 2 police officers. She suspected that the man marketing the products had arrived. Her father got angry and accused her of caring more about the guests than him. He yelled at Matilda, who got so angry that she slammed the door on him without touching it. That's when she realized her powers were linked to her anger. She told them they had no right to upset her. The police entered her father's garage where surveillance cameras were installed. Matilda moved their car without them noticing and managed to retrieve the recorded footage. That night, she decided to return to Agatha's house to retrieve Miss Honey's toys and make her happy. She climbed a tree and entered the house using her powers. She took the toy and, while descending, accidentally left a strand of her hair behind. Agatha noticed the strand and realized someone had been in her house. Matilda gave Miss Honey her toy, making her very happy. The next day, the principal came to their classroom. The students hid anything colorful, and Matilda used her powers to move a water jug, proving her abilities to Miss Honey. The principal interrogated them about the strand of hair. Matilda used her powers to write a message on the board, mimicking a note from Miss Honey's father, asking Agatha to leave the house and the city. The principal was so frightened that she left the city entirely. Miss Honey and Matilda celebrated their success. Later, Matilda decided to pack her things and move to another city before the police came. But unexpectedly, her parents brought adoption papers, saying they didn't care and were afraid of the police. Miss Honey adopted Matilda, and they both lived happily. Miss Honey became the school's principal, and they lived a joyful life together. This is where our movie ends. We hope you enjoyed the summary. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for upcoming summaries. Recite and see you in the next video.